So for today, we are going to be doing mathematics, and we are going to look at some more important aspects of the course, like the basics that we're supposed to know. So I think previously we discussed how to multiply when it involves alphabet. Also the multiplication, the addition of alphabet. So for example, let's just do a few examples. So let's say you have been asked to add 4x and 3x. Since they are the same, this is just x and this is just x. So if you have 4 times something plus 3 times the same thing, this is just like saying you are adding 4 mangoes with 3 mangoes, then you have 7 mangoes, like that. But if you are having 4x plus 3y, can you add them together? No, your answer is still 4x plus 3y. So it's just like you are given 4 mangoes and 3 apples. Add them together. Can you say the answer is 7 mangoes? No, this is wrong. Can you say the answer is 7 apples? No, this is also wrong. So you can't add them together unless they are exactly the same. If you are given 4x squared plus 3x squared, you can add them because they are exactly the same thing. This is x squared, this is also x squared, that is 7x squared. But if you are given 4x squared plus 3x, you can't add them. Your answer is still 4x squared plus 3x. So before you can do addition or subtraction of algebraic expressions, we call these algebraic expressions. Whenever you see that they are mixing numbers with alphabet, what are you going to call them? You call them algebraic expressions. So those alphabetic parts that they are having, they must be exactly the same. So this is x squared. Why this is what? Just x. So you can't add them together. Even if you have 4x plus 3, you can't add. The answer is still 4x plus 3. So please let us note that. But when it comes to multiplication, it is quite different. You don't have the same thing when it comes to multiplication. You don't have the same thing when it comes to multiplication. You can multiply 4x and 3. Just do 4 times 3, that is 12. You put the alphabet, which is x. You can multiply 2x and 3y. Just do 2 times 3, that will give you 6. Then you put the alphabet together, that is x and y. You can also multiply 2x squared and 6x. Now when the alphabets are similar, look at this. This is x and this is y. They are not similar, so just put them together, x, y. Now you can do the same thing with when they are similar. You just multiply 2 and 6, that gives you 12. Then you put your x squared and x together and say x squared x. But this is x and this is x, so why disturb yourself and say x squared x when you can just say x cubed? So overall you are having x 3 times. You have x squared, that's x twice. You have another x again, but make sure that this 3 you put it in the power. Don't forget that we were not able to add 2x squared plus 6x. We can't add this. You still write it as 2x squared plus 6x. So what we are trying to say is that whenever you are adding, the powers that you are having do not change. Mind you, these numbers at the top, those values at the top of the numbers are what you call powers. So this is a power because it's on top. So this is also a power because it's on top. Now if you have any number, any alphabet, maybe x, and it's not given any power, already it exists only once. So that means automatically the power is 1. And if there is nothing beside it, that means the coefficient is also 1. So this number that stands beside an alphabet, we call it coefficient. While this number on top, we call it the power. So we have to know all this. So those are the stuffs that we're supposed to know for now. We need to know what we call the coefficient. This is a coefficient, this is a coefficient, this is a coefficient, this is a coefficient. The number that is attached to a variable or to an alphabet is what you call the coefficient. Then anything that you don't know the value, we call it variable in mathematics. Just like this x, we don't know the value of x, so x is a variable. Here too, you don't know the value of y, so y is a variable. Those numbers that are on top, we call them the power. So this 2 is a power, this 2 is a power, this 3 is also a power. So I think that's all for the basics. Now another thing you're supposed to know is we need to know how to factorize. We need to know how to factorize. Now take a look at this. We have 4x plus 3x squared, and you're asked to factorize this. You're asked to factorize. Now before you know how to factorize, you need to know what you call a term in mathematics. Now how do you know the number of terms that a given expression is having? How do you know the number of terms that a given expression is having? Now you know the number of terms by looking at the number of either the number of addition or subtraction signs that you are having. That's what is going to tell you the number of terms. Now in mathematics, if I just have 2 and I don't put any sign before it, let's say I don't put plus and I don't put minus, automatically this 2 is a positive number even without the sign. Without the sign, it is already a positive number. If it is not a positive number, then I will tell you that it's not a positive number by putting a negative sign. So that's another thing that we're supposed to know. Any number that you write, automatically, if you don't give it any sign, it is automatically a positive number. So which means that using that case, that means that we can write this as plus 4x plus 3x squared. So now count the number of signs that you are having. How many signs are we having? We're having one positive, making 2. So automatically you're having 2 terms. You're having 2 terms. Now where are the terms themselves? The terms are just those expressions that follow those signs. So this is a term on its own. This is another term on its own. Now this term is having a positive sign, while this term is also having a positive sign. So let's say we have been given another one. Let's say we have 2x plus 10y. Now there are some times, okay, so we have 2x, let me use plus, let me use minus 10y. How many terms does this have? So this one also has 2 terms because this is a positive number. So you can say plus 2x then minus 10y. So if you count the number of signs that you are having, you will see that there are also 2. We have plus, we have minus. So we also have 2 terms. Now where are the terms? This is a term. This is also another term. Like this is another term. So that's how we are going to be able to identify the number of terms that we are having. Now, so after knowing the number of terms, then it's going to be easy for us to factorize. So we are going to have 4x plus 3x squared. How do we factorize this? You just look for what is common within the terms. You already know that, since you already know the terms, that this is a term and this is also a term. Now you look at this term. What does it have in common with this term? You see that both of them contain x. Both of them contain x. So that means that x is going to be something that is common. So you bring out your x in the outside bracket. Now whatever you are having outside, that is the same thing that you are going to use to divide what you have inside. So that means that inside the bracket, instead of writing only 4x, you are going to have 4x over, what are we having outside? X. Then you still maintain that plus sign that is between them. Then you have your 3x squared over x, right? So over x, then you have x, so this x cancels this x, you have 4, then plus. Now don't forget that this x squared is just x and x, then you are dividing by another x, so that means that one of them will just go, so you are left with 3x. So this is the final answer for when we factorize that particular expression. So that is how we can factorize. Let's try a few more examples. Let's say we are given maybe 4xy plus let's say we are given 4xy plus, let's say, 10x square y, and we are asked to factorize. Now another thing that you might do is you try to find the HCF. So that you'll be able to say what is common. So now finding HCF is different from finding LCM. HCF is just highest common factor, while LCM is lowest common multiple. They are different actually. So if you want to find HCF, let's see how we can find that. So you find the HCF of the terms that you're having. You already know that this contains two terms because this one has a positive sign. So there are two positive signs. So that means that there are two terms. So this is how you find HCF. Almost the same thing as finding LCM. You write your 4xy, then you write your 10x square y. Then you look for something that can divide this and can divide this. So you have 2, then you divide. So how many 2 can we find in 4? That is 2. You still have your xy. How many 2 can we find in 10? That is what? 5. You still have your x square y. Now this one is different from LCM in the sense that if it is LCM, you continue dividing until you get to 1 1, but this is not so. For HCF, you continue dividing until there is nothing that you can use to divide again, until there is no number that can divide the 2, or there is no value that can divide the 2. That's when you stop. So is there anything that can divide this? I can also divide this. Let's see. We have x can divide. So if x divides this x will go, we are left with 2y. So if x divides this, 1x will go, we are left with 5xy. Don't forget that 5x square y is 5x, x and y. So when 1x goes, we are left with 5xy. So is there still anything that we can use to divide the two together? Yes, there is y. So y goes here, we are left with 2. Y goes here, you are left with 5x. Is there anything that can still divide the 2? No. Then you don't divide again. If it is LCM, you still continue dividing. We still say 2 can divide this one. This will be 1. Then we have 5x. Then you divide by 5x. No. But if it is HCF, you stop when the same number or the same value cannot divide the 2. So what's going to be the HCF? You just multiply these guys that we are having. So that is what 2 times x times y. So that will give us 2xy. So that is our HCF. Now whatever you get for your HCF is what you are going to put outside the bracket. So you just say 2xy, then you open your bracket. Then you put, the first term is 4xy. So we have 4xy over what is outside the bracket, 2xy, plus the second term is 10x square y over 2xy, because that's what is outside the bracket. So it's what is outside the bracket I used to divide the two of them. So we have 2xy, you open your brackets, then you cut xy, 4 here 1, 2 here 1, 2 here 2, then plus xy cancels xy, 2 here 1, 2 here 5. So we have 5x because there are 2 x's here. So you just remove 1 and you are left with 1. So this is what we are going to have. Now if you notice, what you are having is the same thing as what we had at the end when we used the HCF. We got 2xy, then at the end we had 2 and 5x. So just notice it, 2 and 5x. Look at it, we have our 2 and we have our 5x, then you have your 2xy. So which means that once you find the HCF, you might not need to disturb yourself sometimes. whatever you have for the HCF, put it outside the bracket. Whatever you have left, put it inside the bracket. That's going to save you a lot of time. You don't actually need to show all of this process. Now let me give you another example. So let's say we are having 4ab, let's say minus 10 b square, and we are asked to factorize this. Now what are you going to do? We are already going to say how many terms are we having. You're having 2 terms because there is a plus here. So how many signs are we having? We have 1, 2. You are not counting plus separately, minus separately. You are counting everything together. So this is 1 sign, this is another sign, making 2 signs. Now what are we going to do? You now find the HCF of the 2 terms. So your first term is 4ab, and your second term is 10b squared, right? Now what can divide the 2? That's how you do SCM. What can divide the 2? HCF. If it is SCM, you look for what can divide the 2. Then if you don't see, you look for what can divide only 1. But in HCF, you don't do that. You always find what can divide the 2 together. So 2 can divide the 2 together. So 2 goes in 4, you have 2. We are still left with AB. 2 goes in 10, we have 5. We are still left with b squared. What can still divide the 2 together? That's b. So 2 goes in AB, you are left with 2a. 2 goes in b squared. Don't forget that 5b squared is actually 5bb, right? So it is b that we are using to divide. Sorry for that. So b goes in 2ab, you are left with 2a. Then b goes in 5b squared. So 1b will just go. You are left with what? 5b. Now, is there still anything that can divide the 2 of them together? No. So which means that this is what will be outside the bracket, your 2b. So put your 2b outside the bracket. Then inside the bracket, you are going to have 2a, and you are going to have 5b. Then you close the bracket. Now, what's the sign that 2a is having? What's the sign that, this is for the first one. So what's the sign that the first one is having? It's having a plus sign. So you just put the plus sign. If you like, don't put it. It's still the same thing. Now, what's the sign that our second term is having? Is having minus. So just put your minus. So this is the answer. But this particular process of finding the HCF, you don't need to show it. What you just need to show them is this particular one. So nobody will ask you to show them how you actually got 2b to be outside, then 2a minus 5b to be inside the bracket. They are not going to ask you that. Let's see if you can still do one more on factorization. Let's say we have been given 30x square y. So let's say we have minus 30x square y, then plus let's say we have 24x y squared. So we are asked to factorize. So how many terms are we having? Automatically we are having 2 terms, 1 and 2. You count the number of signs to know the number of terms. Now, where are the terms themselves? These are the terms. This is the first term, this is the second term. Then you find the HCF. So you say 30x square y, that's the first term. What's the second term? 24x y square. Look for what can divide the 2. What can divide the 2? 6 can divide. So 6 in 30, that's 5 x square y. 6 in 24, that is 4 x y square. What can divide the 2 again? X can divide. So you say x goes here, you are left with what? 5xy, because 5x square y is 5x x y. So 1x is now going, so you are left with 5xy. Now 4xy square will become 4y square, because 1x will go. Now what can still divide the 2 again? Y can divide the 2, right? So y can divide the 2. So if you put y, so y goes here, you are left with 5x. Y goes here, you are left with what? 4y. Don't forget that. So because 4y square is 4yy, so by the time you remove 1y, you are left with 4y. If it is 4y cube, that's what 4y y y. By the time you remove 1y, you still have 2y's. That's what y squared. So don't forget that. So what are we going to have as the answer? What are we going to have as the answer? Now this is going to be equal to, now whatever is here will be outside the bracket. That's what 6xy. So we have 6xy. Then you open a bracket, you put the sign minus. Now for 30x square y, which is here, what's the final answer for it? 5x. So you put that 5x. Then for 24xy square, you also put the sign. Don't forget that when we wanted to write for this, we also wrote the sign first. So for 24xy square too, you look at the sign. The sign is plus. Then what did you get for 24xy square? You get 4y. So just put your 4y here. So this is what you will get if you factorize it. So that's going to be our final answer.